To take it away.
Thanks, Eliana. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We have a lot of information that we'll get through. If you have questions, drop them in the chat or save them till the end, and we'll try to answer everything that we can while providing information for this year's challenges. We are going to kick off with just a quick overview about MIT Solve, who we are, what we do, just to provide a little bit of context. So I'm Rachel, and like Eliana said, I run the economic prosperity work at Solve and help with all of the challenges. So Solve, in a nutshell, is an initiative of MIT. We sit right under the provost's office at the university. Our office is on campus. We believe that to achieve a better future for everyone, we need new voices, new ideas beyond the walls and campus boundaries of MIT in Boston. So we do this by launching open calls for solutions for global challenges every year. If you are selected, we work with you to provide funding and wraparound support services, connect you to MIT and different community members to help scale your work and further your impact. A little bit more about who we exactly work with. So we have supported over 400 innovators in the past. So kind of our alumni community contains 400 or more innovators around the world. That includes 43 fellows that represent 27 Indigenous nations across the US and Canada. 90% of our teams are still operational, which is really exciting. That's a pretty high number for startup communities. And then the breakdown of for-profit versus hybrid or nonprofit teams is about 60 to 35 or so. We also have a high number, majority of our teams are female or women-led, which is great, and 62% are based in the Global South. So that just gives you a little bit of a snapshot of who exactly we work with and who exactly we are supporting through all of these challenges. In terms of our global reach, this is just a snapshot for you of where applications come from across the world. So we do accept solutions or applications from around the world, with a couple notable exceptions based on MIT's policies that follow US legal policies over embargoed countries. But you can see kind of the scope of continents and where applications are from. In terms of the timeline, so you can see kind of everything here. We are in the yellow bar. So February to April, we are in a launch and application section. We have spent the past couple months designing these challenges, so really focusing on what the themes are, what the eligibility requirements are, what the application questions are. We do this every year. We are now in our launch phase. So all of our global applications are live on our website. They're open for applications. If you are interested in applying, we encourage you to do so. If you know someone who would be a good applicant, we encourage you to let them know. After April, once the challenges are closed, we'll go into a multi-tier screening and review and judging process. So we will have people that are reviewing all the solutions, checking for eligibility, checking for feasibility. We'll go in a little bit more detail about eligibility and criteria in a little bit. After that, we have one of our flagship events called the Solve Challenge Finals. It takes place in New York City. So selected teams for this year's challenge cohorts join us in New York. They pitch live to an audience during United Nations General Assembly Week, and they have a chance to really meet our community and get introduced to members that can be helpful there. That is the kickoff of our 9-month support program for the entrepreneurs and innovators that we work with. That 9-month support program is in addition to any prize funding or support funding that teams receive, and that includes capacity building workshops, executive leadership coaching, networking events, etc. And then the capstone of that 9-month support program for anyone that is selected is our flagship event on the MIT campus in May called Solve at MIT, where we kind of celebrate all the work that you've done and any progress or partnerships you've made in the past 9 months. So it's kind of an overview of the timeline. Going more in depth about this year's challenges. So every year we launch 5 challenges. They are in similar thematic areas. This year we've gone a little bit broader in our themes, so a little less prescriptive about what might come in. But you can take a look at all of these here. You can find more information on our website. These are kind of the overarching framing questions for each of our global challenges. So we have one in our economic prosperity pillar, one focused on learning, climate, health, and then our Indigenous Communities Fellowship. And I also encourage everyone to keep an eye on the chat. Eliana's putting really helpful links in as we go through, so that you can follow along on our website and really have all of the information that you need right there. So that's a snapshot of our global challenges. Within all of these challenges, we also have a special track that's focused on Black and Brown innovators in the US. So within each of these challenges, if you identify as a Black or Brown innovator within the US, if your work is specific to this population and this beneficiary demographic, we have a special track for this as well. We want to set aside slots in our cohort and really focus on this US equity work across all of our pillars. So that is something as well to keep top of mind. Similar 9-month support program for that. Moving on for what you get. So after you've spent all the time on your application, we've spent all the time on our end of selection, review, and hearing your pitches. If you're selected, this is an overview of what you'll get. So a minimum of $10,000 from MIT Solve. So regardless of how much additional funding you get, that'll be kind of the minimum ground level of funding. And then we also have a number of different prizes, so sponsored prizes, partner prizes. Right now, that number is above $1 million, and so different teams will be eligible for accessing shared parts of that pool. That also includes access to investment through Solve's donor advised or DAF fund called Solve Innovation Future. So if you're a for-profit team and you're selected, you have a potential opportunity to be invested through our DAF fund. This also includes travel stipends to attend the 2 flagship events that I mentioned earlier. So Solve Challenge Finals in New York in the fall, and then Solve at MIT in the spring on campus in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Introductions to potential funders, and then that 9-month support program, that wraparound support program that I talked about earlier. Once you have completed the 9-month support program, we consider you a Solver alumni. That doesn't mean that you disappear or that we disappear from each other's lives. We'll keep in touch with you. We will track kind of your wins and your pain points for the course of 5 years or so, just so that we get information and can help you as best as we can. You'll have access to our events still. You'll still be eligible for portfolio prizes, so any prize funding that's available to alumni. Same thing with the Solve Innovation Future, the DAF donor advised funds, and then workshops and pro bono resources don't expire as soon as your 9 months are up, but you will still have access to those, which is great. So a little more in depth about the Solver support program. This is a 9-month support program that runs from September through about May. This includes access to in-kind and pro bono resources. So this can include anything from free software licenses to free legal support. There is an opportunity for cohort calls. So each of the challenges will be selecting roughly, and Eliana can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but roughly between 7 and 10 innovators. And so we really run a cohort model of support there, having a chance for you guys to all talk to one another if you are selected. And then our media and PR team work quite closely with you to elevate anything that you've done that we want to do some storytelling about, putting you up for speaking opportunities at conferences, etc. And then really looking at your specific needs that we find out through a needs assessment and tailoring support accordingly there. Let's see, next up. So that's kind of an overview of solve, about the cycle, about what you get. We'll dive into specifics on your application now. So working on your application, the application settings, there are a couple of things that are required. So if you go into the application portal, it will ask you to select your challenge. So as I mentioned before, we have 5 open challenges right now. We actually have a couple more from our partner challenges that you'll see on the website. So you'll select which challenge your solution is most applicable to. We have some frequently asked questions. People often wonder if you can apply to more than one challenge. The answer is yes. However, only one team is allowed past the finalist stage. So you'll have to make some decisions at that point. You will identify a team lead of your solution. Usually this is the person that is the best point of contact. This is the person that represents your solution, usually a senior level or founder, CEO, C-suite type person. You can also add additional team members, which we'll get to in a little bit. And then we will also ask you about your team, about your solution, about your business model, about your funding. Keeping in mind, so some tips, concept stage solutions. So anything that is not at a working tested prototype stage will likely not be reviewed or selected as a solver team, although the exception to that is if you're applying to our Indigenous Communities Fellowship. So just double check that. You need to continuously hit save on your application so that we make sure that we don't lose any of your data. And then finally, pay attention to public questions versus internal use only questions. In light of Solve's commitment to open innovation and transparency, your application, once submitted, will be public facing on our website. So not only will other people be able to see your solution, barring the internal use only questions, we don't share things like a sensitive financial or demographic information, but you'll also be able to see other people who post their solutions and applications and be able to see kind of who else is thinking about similar things. And then make sure that if you upload videos as a complement to your application, that you set those video settings to public so that you make sure to see everything in the right way on the application. Next up, we have other team members. So like I said, if you would like to collaborate with other team members and make sure that they can add to the application, or you want to list multiple team members, maybe you have some people that are kind of tag teaming this application, completely fine. You can add those. This is kind of an overview about how to do that. This information is also on our website. And just in order to work on our application or to be a user on our website, you'll just have to make an account. And like I said before, the team lead should be kind of the most visible representative of your solution. So someone who is the CEO or the executive director or the founder, someone kind of at that level that if selected would be the person that would be pitching and that would be representing the solution at events, etc. Going on to submitting your solution. So there are a number of required questions on the application. Those all need to be completed in order to submit. If the submit button doesn't show up, it's probably because there's a required question somewhere in there that didn't get filled in. So just double check that. We encourage everyone to submit ahead of the deadline. We know that people work until the very last minute. The earlier you submit, the better. You can still go back in at any time and edit or update your solution, even if you've submitted it before the deadline. And then another reminder, like I said before, that your solution will be publicly viewable or accessible after submitting. So anything that you put up will be publicly viewable, and you can check that on the front end of the website as well. Next up, so getting into some frequently asked questions, great. And also there's questions in the chat that Eliana is perfect. So Hannah, great question. I'll just address this in the chat. So to clarify, this means you have to have a piloted proof of concept, fully running prototype at the time of your application, not in the works. Eliana has pasted helpfully a page on our website that delineates all of the different stages. So we do have the option for you to have either a pilot or a prototype stage solution. So as long as you're at least at a prototype stage, and we have definitions there, that would be eligible. Okay. So frequently asked questions. So because we are MIT with the T standing for technology, people often ask how to solve defined technology because we do ask for tech-based solutions for all of our challenges. For a quick overview, we define tech quite broadly. We're not looking for the highest possible technology, the shiniest, flashiest piece of technology. We define technology intentionally very, very broadly. So we're looking for high tech, low tech. That can include things like apps, SMS tech, software, AI, robots, VR, blockchain, fintech, but also natural technologies, traditional ancestral knowledge systems, etc. Can you apply to multiple global challenges? Again, the answer is yes, although if you make it to final stages of selection, you'll be asked to select one challenge. So you can, but just make sure that you know kind of at the end of the day which one is potentially more relevant and more aligned. Let's see, what's the time commitment if you are selected as a solver or an Indigenous Communities Fellow? We estimate approximately 25 hours over the course of 9 months, and that includes things like the coaching sessions that I mentioned before, virtual workshops, virtual events, and then in addition, travel to flagship events twice a year as well. All right, moving forward to challenge criteria. So for each of our challenges, we have a number of different criteria that we use scoring on a rubric. So for when we're reviewing your solution, when the judges for each challenge are scoring and reviewing your solution, these are the specific things that they are looking at. So this is helpful to keep in mind as you're drafting your application. So we look first and foremost at alignment. So does your solution use technology, and is it addressing the overall topic, the overarching question of one of the 5 global challenges? We also look at potential for impact. So does your solution have the potential to impact the intended population? Feasibility, is there a realistic, practical plan for implementing the solution? Is it feasible? We look at some of the business plan questions to determine this. So what's your plan for kind of getting things off the ground for sustainability? Innovative approach. So does this solution include either a new technology or a new application of the technology, a new business model, or a new process? So what sets this apart from others? If you have competitors that are doing similar work, how is yours unique and different? And then finally, inclusive human-centered design. So Solve looks at equity throughout everything that we do. And also, this is the lens with which we look through reviewing solutions. So looking at inclusive and equitable outcomes in the design, the implementation, and also in your internal operations. So are you considering the beneficiaries? How are you relating to the beneficiaries and the demographic populations of who you intend to serve? And then 3 additional criteria later on in the review phase. So we look at scalability, potential partnership, and technical feasibility. So those are the 3 that will also be reviewed during the finalist stage and during that final stage of solver selection. So strengthening your application. So like I said before, there's a number of required questions, but we encourage people to fill out as much of the application as possible, even those questions that are not required. That really gives us a chance to see even more of your work, understand even more of what you're trying to do. We also have help text for all of the applications, for examples, for explanations, for links. So if you're not quite sure how to craft an answer to one of the questions, you can utilize that, or always reach out to the help desk for any specific questions. And then Eliana will pop this in the chat, but we have a number of different things that are helpful for applicants. So we have a quick eligibility quiz. Before you spend time on the application, just double check your eligibility to make sure that that is in fact a good use of your time. We have a course that is open to everyone for business and impact planning. That'll touch a lot of things that are also in the application, like theory of change, business models, things like that. And then, of course, there's a FAQ page on our website that contains a lot of what we've just gone over today. And then we have additional application clinics as well throughout this season. This is the first one, but if you want to attend all of them, the more the merrier, go for it. Okay, final reminders. A final reminder that answers to applications, unless they're specifically denoted otherwise, will be visible to the public. With the rise of generative AI and ChatGPT, we know that a lot of people are using this for grant applications or for answers right now. We acknowledge that, but also recommend that that you be wary of that. We want to hear your personal voice. We want to hear your personal details. We don't want kind of a generic overview of your work. We want your passion to come through and your storytelling narratives to come through. So feel free to use that for maybe more technical questions, but always with all generative AI, take another look at it and make sure that your voice is somewhere in there. And then double clicking on what I said before, don't wait till the last minute to submit your application. Inevitably, in the last hour, your internet will go out, something will happen, and we don't want you to spend a lot of time on your application and then until the very last minute not be able to submit. So we also are able to support you through our IT and help desk more if we have a little bit more time to go back and forth with you, and we can't do that if it's 2 minutes until the deadline and we are flooded with a field of questions. So plan that accordingly. And then that is all that we have for right now. So this is the email. So help@solve.mit.edu is our help desk email. There's someone always manning that desk. If there's any questions that you have about that, feel free to write in. We'll record, we are recording this and we'll post this and share later. I think that, let's see, I'm just going over the chat to make sure that I didn't miss any questions. Let's see, there is a question about, are there any supporting documents required as part of the application? The answer to that is no, but you are able to add those if you think that they would strengthen your application. So there's not necessarily the need for any financial documentation, company registration, etc. But sometimes people will add in videos or supplementary materials if they'd like. So that is, that's up to you. I would just make sure that once you submit, look at everything from the front end of the website, from the publicly visible point, and make sure that all the links or attachments that you've provided are in fact able to be open. There's no broken links, etc., so that the judges have the best possible view into your work and into your solution. Let's see. We have a question. Let's see. Is an organization that works toward the general well-being of other organizations eligible for applying to a challenge as in a B2B model? Great question. Yes, is the easy answer, and the simple answer, yes, that is eligible. There will be a section of the application that asks about your business model and asks, you know, are you a nonprofit, a for-profit, a B2B, a B2C model, and you'll just delineate there based on what kind of registered or unregistered organization and business model you have. Let's see. If you have other questions that haven't been answered, feel free to pop them in the chat or raise your virtual hand and we can chat about those. Let's see. Can a team consist of members based in different countries? Yes, absolutely. Yep, that is no problem at all. We understand that it's a global world and teams are global, and that makes perfect sense to us. We also have team members working in different places all the time. Let's see. What if technology part of my startup is not launched yet due to financial reasons? Can I apply? yes. I would just be sure to note that in the specific part of the application that asks about the innovative part of your solution and the tech-based part of your solution. So you will be asked in the application what kinds of technology you use. Is this a new technology, or is this a newer application of an existing technology? And that's where you can really put some narrative behind, this is the kind of technology we intend to use. These are the barriers right now for us to be using it. This is what we need in order to really get this off the ground, etc. So there'll be options for you to kind of explain that in your application. Good question.
Right. Do you mind me adding to that answer?
Please.
As Rach said before, like Solve for the Global Challenges selects solutions that are in the prototype stage. So it would be super pertinent for you to address, like, if you believe that your solution is in the prototype stage, despite the technology partner being developed, find like that place in the application and make sure to explain why it is in fact a working prototype, and besides not having the technology, why it's not a concept at this stage. And Rach, I have a question privately sent to me. Oh, I see it now. Should the applying entity be a registered company? And the answer to that is no, right?
Yep, it doesn't need to be. So if you are not registered as a formal entity or a formal company or a formal organization yet, that's fine. We will ask you if you are a nonprofit or a for-profit or a hybrid, B Corp model right now, and you can just explain that you either don't intend to be registered or you're not, but that doesn't mean that you're ineligible to apply. Okay, great. So as a follow-up, let's see. Yep, no problem, Zara. For the Black and Brown Innovators Program, is that qualified by the team lead, where they're based, originally from, where the company is incorporated? Good question. So we'll relink the eligibility and the link to the Black and Brown Innovators Program, but there's information on the website about what actually denotes eligibility for that specific track. So we are looking at US-based solutions that affect or impact US-based demographics as kind of a starting point for that, but more information on our website in the link that Eliana just put in the chat. Other questions? And if you put a question up at the very top of the hour that we somehow missed in the big thread, just pop it back below so we can make sure to address that.
As you all think of additional questions, I would say a reminder, this is the first application clinics of many that Solve have in the future. So I will also drop in the chat the events webpage where when you are able to see the additional dates that we have. So perhaps right now you're thinking about submitting an application, you're seeing if your solution is eligible, and perhaps by the next application clinic you'll be completing your application and you have a question about one of the required sections, for instance. Feel free to come back to the next application clinic so you can ask those additional questions. So this will be one of the many chances that you have to ask questions.
Yep, I would agree with that. And I think with any grant application or fellowship or application to a challenge like this, always a good idea to get into the platform, to get into the portal, to play around, see where everything is, see how the formatting is, look at the character limits and word limits to certain questions so that you make sure that you're within that. There is also a PDF version of all of the questions in case you want to look at that offline to prepare your answers before going into the portal. All right. Well, without seeing other questions, I think we will stop recording. Eliana and I will hang out just for a couple more minutes in case there's more questions that come in. But thank you all for coming. Hope to see applications from you, and good luck with everything. Thanks, guys.